one word go.
Territory.
To play 15 minutes. Territory. Like Northwest Territories?
Territory. Didn't talk about the Northwest Territories.
Well, I don't really know much about them. They're not that well populated.
Why are they
Captain.
territories and not provinces?
You know what? I don't know. Why?
Because they have different powers. Their provinces, like their legislatures, have different.
Yeah, I get that, but like, why would we call them a territory and like, I don't know, Newfoundland a province?
Because they have different.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm guessing it has to do with the population as well.
oh yeah, definitely has to do with like the Yukon, Northwest Territory, and Nunavut. It's very small population up there.
Like I've never been there. It's just like a huge piece of land and then a little bit of population.
Like a Callaway is smaller than Timmins.
Yeah, those are capitals. So
I think that's the biggest city in any of the territories.
is that the capital of
Nunavut.
Yeah, so that's a new one too. Well, it's not new, I guess, but it
12
was
years.
new when we were in school. Nunavut.
It's 12 years old. 13 now, I guess. So it's 2015. Holy crap.
Territory. So a lot of wars fought over territory.
Yeah, well, that's. What do you think of like? Well, I know we talked about this before, but like, like in World War II, it was like East Berlin and West Berlin.
After World War II.
Yeah. So
World War II was all just Berlin.
Okay, so like building walls like that, like the Great Wall, the Berlin Wall, like that's crazy. But if you think about it, borders between countries are increasingly becoming like that. Certain countries, anyways.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was watching a documentary. Yeah, surprise. On JFK. He's if you don't know, he's an American president that was assassinated. He was a president during the Cold War, one of the youngest, if not the youngest, American president in history. Um, and during his presidency, it was actually when they built the wall in Berlin. Like Berlin was already split, but you had access. So like if you lived in East Berlin, you could walk to West Berlin, and you'd be. I guess West Berlin would have just been like a democratic like government that the UK, the US, and France approved of at least. So you could, and there was this mass migration of people fleeing, like intellectuals and just regular people fleeing the Soviet Union, and that was one of the big tough points between Russia and the United States because the Soviet Union kind of thought that what was his name? Khrushchev, Nikita Khrushchev, who was what do they call the Soviet leaders, anyways?
Oh my God, what was Hitler?
Oh, he was a Führer. He was a Führer. But anyways, Nikita Khrushchev was their leader. I don't know. They might have even called him a president or whatever. I don't know. But and that was one of the big issues of contention. And through some sort of whatever political shit, they decided to build the wall, and it actually relieved the tension. Like that, this was right after the Cuban Missile Crisis, like the closest that nuclear war actually came to happening. They say. Then they built the wall and it stopped the immigration, which sucks, right? Like, imagine you're living in Timmins and they build a wall between Timmins and South End or something. I can't come here, whatever. But it kind of quelled the tension quite a bit by actually defining that border between the two sides.
I suppose back then trade wasn't as big of a thing either, right?
Well, yeah, basically Russia and the Soviet states traded with each other. And then the West traded with each other. It wasn't like they were separate, right? Like it was like that's they called it the Iron Curtain, right? It was like
10 minutes
split. So I guess that's actually a good topic for territory because in World War II. I don't know how much you know or not. Um, Nazi Germany took over all of mainland Europe, right? Well, at least anything to the left of Germany, to the west of Germany, and then broke their truce and went east and went into Russia, right? So they had people spread out all across, and they had two fronts to fight when we started fighting it. So what happened was the Russians finally got out of Russia and then started taking over countries or freeing countries. And we did the same thing in the West, just so we're taking back the territory. And then once that happened, once the war ended, they kind of split the territory into A, Soviet control, and B, Western control. And the world was like that for 30 years, 40 years, where there's like one sphere of power and one sphere of power. Now I don't know if you would call it we called us the first world, obviously, because we're that conceited. The Soviet sphere of power was the second world, and then the poor countries like Africa and South America are the third world. So yeah, anyways, I don't know, I just kind of always thought that was pretty interesting. And there was two superpowers, even though the US was always technically more powerful, both had the ability to blow up the planet, basically.
Another thing that I think might fit into this territory topic is what you were talking about after last week. You were talking about the division of power between Southern and Northern Ontario, as well as the United States and Canada.
Oh yeah. Oh, I just you hear, or I guess it is mostly reading the border, but people saying how we have sort of, I don't know if you call it as Canadians,
a complex,
some sort of complex where we kind of always compare ourselves to the United States. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head.
Well, beer.
Yeah, there you go. So beer, one of the first topics every time in America, well, our beer is stronger than yours.
Yeah.
See, our beer is stronger than American beer, or I don't even know, random things, when we talk about employment rates or whatever, unemployment rates, it's always compared to the United States,
Well, that's because of territory, I think, right? That we compare it so closely to them. They're the closest. They're the only land border crossing that we have.
And they're similar. They have similar
values.
Well, that's questionable, but they have similar just land in general. They have prairies. They have the coast, the West Coast sort of feel. They have people in prairies. I don't know if I mentioned that. And then I thought it was kind of. I thought you could kind of compare that to how we in Northern Ontario sometimes compare ourselves to Toronto. Even on our first podcast, we made some jokes about the food in Toronto or whatever, so I kind of, there's a split. And that's what I was thinking. I don't know, I'm kind of all over the place here. When you mentioned territory and we started talking about the Northwest territories and stuff, it's what if that would have went differently and they drew a line in North Bay or Sudbury, and the northern part of Ontario, which is part of a territory with the northern parts of Quebec or something.
It could have happened. We're pretty far north, right?
It's pretty sparsely populated as well, right?
But we have highways. We're connected to.
Well, there's highways going out there too.
Some of them, like the Yukon, yeah, but I'm sure there's it's got to be hard to get access. I mean, you can't even get to the famous Great Coast in the summertime by car.
That's true. So and there's Dawson, I think in the Yukon, you can only get to it you're basically stuck there if you're there in the winter time, unless you want to go on a long dog sled trip or a snowmobile trip.
Well, you have a fly in and out.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
I'm sure it's a huge tourist town.
But if you're there in the winter, yeah, I hear your prices go up for everything.
Oh, well, yeah, Moosonee and everything too. But it's crazy. It's It's funny, eh? Because we do this. Oh, natives don't have to pay taxes. They're so lucky. But most of them live up the coast where it's expensive before tax. It's more expensive than it's going to cost us after tax.
Yeah, I forget some of the actual prices, but yeah, they're
A
like
box of
crazy.
cereal is like $10-15 from what I heard.
Yeah, it's
They
pretty
got
intense.
shipped, like the Timmins Victor M. Power Airport, like half the planes that go out from there are supply planes that go north.
Yeah, see, to supply the vast territory of Ontario and
We're
generally
not even
Canada.
talking about the territories yet. Like this is just going to Moosonee.
So yeah, Canada covers the second largest amount of territory as any country in the world, only second to Russia.
I don't know if I mentioned or on a previous podcast, but our district is larger than England.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mentioned it to you. I didn't know if I mentioned it on the air.
Sure
That's mind blowing. Like,
yeah, so I don't know. We have a lot of territory.
lots and lots of territory. And thankfully, we don't have civil wars here. I mean, we have Quebec, but I don't think there's any danger of that becoming a civil war.
So the most volatile, but the Civil War wasn't for territory though.
It's for
the American Civil War. See, there you go again.
But there's different civil wars in the world that are.
Yeah. Or they're just called rebellions.
That's off topic. I was going to talk about the genocide in Congo. It's off topic though. Like even like the city. This is like a truly Canadian thing, but like the city of Timmins is larger than the city. I don't know about it anymore, but for a long time it was larger than Greater Toronto.
Yeah, not anymore.
And the population is just a small fraction. The population can fit in the Rogers Center, pretty much.
Pretty close, yeah.
Pretty close, anyways.
Well, what are you looking at with, like, if you count Hamilton and all that in Toronto? There you go. We had comparing to America, now we're comparing to Toronto.
Yeah, but you don't count Hamilton in the Greater Toronto
area. They're inching towards it.
Yeah, but it's going to become the GTA.
GTA and H.
Yeah, GTA and H. Which is, I mean, would make Toronto quite a bit bigger because Hamilton is like 600,000 people. Which is a lot.
Like, it's pretty big. What do you think? Actually, so how many people then would you say in the GTA? Or just in that general area? Like, in the metropolitan area?
Like, Southern Ontario?
Well, like...
Because like, the way, like, you could go to Niagara, or you could go to Windsor. So if you include everything...
Well, not if you don't include, like, the part they call Southwest Ontario, like, not Windsor and all that.
But include the Niagara region?
I don't know. I don't really know that much about down there.
Probably 7-8 million.
That's not including Windsor and all that? Alright,
anyway. That's a guesstimate.
Either way. Okay, guesstimate 7 to 8 million people live in that one area.
Okay, can I put it this way? 2/3 of the Canadian population live on the Quebec-Windsor corridor.
Which is from Quebec going west City all the way to
Windsor. That includes Montreal, that includes Quebec City, but a lot of that is just Ontario.
Okay, so 2/3 of Canada's population lives in, I don't know how big it is kilometer-wise, but if you look at a map and look at that section compared to the rest of the country, 2/3, okay, that's in 2 provinces. There's 8 other provinces and 3 territories.
Yeah. And if you think about it this way, the Greater Toronto area is bigger than Japan, but Japan has 3 times the amount of people than Canada.
Oh yeah, I made a mistake the other time saying Tokyo was
fuck, that's crazy.
30 million. That's more London-ish, right? Or was that
the other way around? London-ish.
Or is it the other way around? No, I said London was 30 million and Tokyo was, I'm pretty sure. There's a good correction for you.
Anyways, Japan is nuts. And the Toronto area is smaller, is bigger than Japan.
Yeah, and what's the population of Japan?
9, 8, 5.
There you go. Canada's a huge country.
Lots of territory. 1. And my phone's on silent, so it didn't make any noise.
Beep, 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 beep.